mentioned about online safety for women. So I feel that online safety should be for men as well, because because you understand how the world is moving. I want to tell all my listeners that I've never been on a dating app. And talking to talking to Kaushik, it sounds pretty interesting and safe, honestly. Okay, Kaushik.
So when we started Flutrr, it was to create more deeper and meaningful connections, not the casual things and the hookups. So we are close to about 750k downloads right now, about 7.5 lakhs. So yes, today we are both in the Apple Store and the Google Store.
I never imagined that so much of knowledge could go behind having a dating app, honestly. And this is absolutely wonderful, it's interesting. Hello and welcome to Rashi Foundation. Welcome to a groundbreaking episode of Flutrr. Today, we are diving into the world of love, connections, and relationships as we explore India's first multilingual, safe, and inclusive dating app. Kaushik Banerjee is the co-founder and the man behind Flutrr. Kaushik, आपका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है कि आप आए.
Thank you, Rashi, and thank you for having me on this podcast. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Kaushik, to start with, tell us about your journey in short and what brought you to Flutrr.
So, Rashi, I passed out of IIM in 1992 and worked in the corporate world for 30 years, more than 30 years actually. After that, I took a break from my corporate job, and I was doing brand consultancy for different brands. My son, who's my co-founder, he passed out of St. Xavier's College and had got an admission into Alliance Manchester Business School in UK. And he was supposed to go there for his MBA. And COVID happened and he couldn't go. Okay, right. So, we didn't want to send him during COVID times. So he said, okay, if I can't do my MBA, let me at least learn through building a startup. So I said, fine, go ahead, do it. So he and his Gen Z friends, all 22, 23-year-olds, they ideated amongst themselves and came back with the idea of a dating app. So I said, no, dating app won't work. There are too many dating apps in the market. So they again went back to the drawing board. They went into small towns of Bengal, talked to youth, came back and said, India is the second largest English-speaking market in the world, but only 9.8% Indians speak English. And if you go to the small towns today, they have smartphones, they have geo connection, they're watching videos, so their aspirations are very high, but they also want to find online romance, but they can't because they don't know English and there are only English dating apps in the country. So we want to start a vernacular dating app. To that I said, yes, that's a great idea, and that is something which will work. So they said, we are Gen Z, we are 22, 23-year-old, and we can understand how the dating market works, how girls will date boys and boys will date girls, but we don't have gray hairs like you, right? So, you run the company as a CEO, running the corporate strategy, corporate governance, finance, funding, and we will run product and marketing and consultation with you. So it was the father-son duo which started Flutrr. So my son is my co-founder, and it's a very interesting story. A 25-year-old son and a 55-year-old man starting Flutrr.
So now that is interesting, You are like 45 plus probably.
And 55.
55, okay. And your son is 25.
That's right.
And how does it work? I mean, youngsters are so different from people like of our age. And a dating app, I mean, tell me about it more. Tell me the story behind it. And also tell me how is Flutrr different from other dating apps?
So, Anirban is my son, and he's 25 years old. But when we get into office and we start working, we are just like two co-founders. Okay, the father-son relationship is only at home, right? I mean, he takes care of product and marketing, and I take care of finance, corporate strategy, corporate structure, governance, etc. So it's a very healthy relationship. It's just like two co-founders, and we keep our egos aside when we work together. So that has worked pretty well for us. Uh, and I know that if I have to understand how the dating market works, he knows it much better than I do. Okay, right? Because he's in that age group, and he knows that I know corporate structure and governance much better than he does, because he doesn't. He does have an MBA. I have a MBA with 32 years experience, so it works pretty well. It's complementary skills. Okay, right? And in terms of Flutter, there are basically, three different things which I want to talk about. One is, of course, the vernacular aspect. We're now in 16 Indian languages, and we cater to almost 80% of India's population. Right. Second is, what we realized is, since we are now going to talk to Bharat, which is the non-English speaking population, onboarding small town women will be a challenge. Okay, right. And so we had to build in proprietary safety and privacy features for women, so that they feel private and safe when they're on Flutter. And we're in the process of patenting those technologies, so that nobody can use it. Okay, right. And the third thing, which was again very important thing for Flutter, is the revenue model of the business model. So, English dating apps are aimed at high income, uh, metro, tier one, high disposable income youth. So they charge 900 rupees, 1000 rupees as monthly subscription. Now, when you're talking to Bharat, neither can they afford to pay you 900,000 rupees, nor will they pay you. Okay, right. So we had to create microtransactions, which are pay per use, which you do small little things on the app for 30 rupees, 50 rupees, 40 rupees, and you enhance your dating experience through that. Now, as a result of that, what has happened is, on our English dating apps, only 4 to 5% users are premium users who pay. Whereas on Flutter, there's almost 33% users who do microtransactions on a monthly basis. So obviously, our revenue model is tailored to the hinterlands of India. So vernacular, safety for women, and the business model. These are the three basic differences for Flutter.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay, you just mentioned about online safety for women. So I feel that online safety should be for men as well, because, because you understand how the world is moving. So can you elaborate more on the patent technology used to protect the platform, safety and privacy, for both men and women? Over to you.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. I mean, online safety should be there for men also. Uh, you know, Unfortunately, in our country, women, not only on dating apps, even on social media, are harassed and cyber stalking and bullying and cyberbullying and phishing attacks. A lot of things happen. Okay, right. So when we started Flutter, we realized that on any dating app, almost 25 to 30% profiles are fake. Okay, right. And they're usually created by men to harass women on the platform. Okay, right. So one of the strong decisions which we took in Flutter was not to allow any fake profiles. So if you want to chat with a woman on my platform, you have to verify yourself with a selfie, and there's a face recognition algorithm which matches your selfie with your profile photo. And you have to validate your mobile number with an OTP. Only then you are allowed to be verified and then chat with a woman. I'm not saying there are no fake profiles, but maybe only 1.5% of fake profile, which is a huge difference between the other dating apps and us. That's one. Second is, we realized, women's profiles, men take screenshots and circulate it in their WhatsApp groups. So on my app, you can't take a screenshot, whichever hardware you're using. Right? Third thing, again, small town women, if you're in, let's say, Jhansi, okay, right, and your location can be seen, a boy can actually track you down to your house, okay, right. So we applied the ghost mode feature, which if you switch on, it will show you as Hasi, but will not show your location. Okay, right? The fourth thing, which is again very typical to Bharat, if a small town woman is on a dating app, she doesn't want her cousins or her friends to know that she's on a dating app. So we have a block known contacts feature, which if you switch on, uh, all the contacts in your phone book will not be able to see your profile on Flutter. The fifth thing, which is again born from research, you are chatting with a man, man takes screenshots of the chat and bullies you later or harasses you later. So we have a private mode messaging chat, which if you switch on, there's a kill switch. At any point of time, if you're uncomfortable with the chat, you can press the kill switch and the chat disappears from your mobile and the man's mobile. So you can't do that. And of course, there are profanity filters in the chat, which blocks out objectionable audio, video, images, text. So these are some of the safety and privacy features which we have to build to make it safe for the small town living.
I want to tell all my listeners that I've never been on a dating app. And talking to talking to Kaushik, it sounds pretty interesting and safe, honestly. Okay,
Yeah.
Kaushik, tell me that you speak about 16 languages, bilingual and multilingual, rather, not bilingual, multilingual, you know, um, how do you think is the experience you as running this application? And, I mean, are people that responsive, or has it given you a great experience having it in different languages? Over to you.
So, India, I believe, is not one country. Okay, right. I mean, yeah, we are one country, but language, culture changes every 300 kilometers, 500 kilometers. Okay, right. Language, culture, food, everything changes. Okay, right. So, if you're talking to India, and which is non-English, okay, right, then you've got to have multiple languages. Okay, right. And we have not even got into dialect so far. Okay, right. For instance, we have the northeastern languages, but the northeastern languages have different dialects. We have not even got into that. Okay, right. So yes, if you want to cater to the Bharat audience, you have to have languages, and we have covered the major 16 languages so far. Uh, but the idea is to get into even more deeper into dialects. Okay, right. So that we have a team of linguists, okay, in our on our contract, who look at every aspect of the language thing that we do, and they are experts not only in terms of language, they're experts in terms of cultural nuances, literary nuances, uh, and they actually moderate what kind of language we use, because what works in Hindi may not work in Tamil, or what works in Tamil may not work in Gujarati. Okay, right. So we have a team of linguists who look at the language that we are putting out, and they make changes and they moderate it. Okay, right. And so yes, it is. I mean, just doing languages is not Google Translate. Okay, right. It's about cultural nuances. It's about language nuances which you need to bring in, and that is something which we are proud of having done, because we are truly a Bharat app where we are keeping cultural and language nuances in mind when we are when we are catering to 16 Indian languages.
While going through your page and, doing some research, we found out there was some different kind of algorithm, on the matchmaking front and, the compatibility matrix. So tell me more about that. Tell me about the technology. How does it work?
So when we started Flutter, it was to create more deeper and meaningful connections, not the casual flings and the hookups, which has become the brand persona of Tinder. And especially when you're talking to Bharat, you have to talk about more romance and more long-term connections rather than casual flings and hookups. So one of the algorithms which we match on is based on your passion, interest, and hobby. Okay, right. Uh, so there's a common ground which you can discuss, and there's a common interest or a shared passion or a shared hobby which becomes part of the matching algorithm. And the other thing which we is very typical to Flutter, which is again completely tailored to Bharat, is astrology. Okay, right. So what we have done is based on your name and your date of birth and your location, astro numero score is assigned to you. It's an algorithm which works at the back end. And then they try and match you with people who have similar astro numero scores or more or compatible astro numero scores. So two types of matching, and users can choose which matching they want to go with. Okay, right. So they can go with a passion based matching or they can go with a astro numero based matching. Okay, right. So the data shows that people are going for more astro numero based matching.
Yeah, people are so done with just beauty relationships that they actually believe in strong connections now. And this is absolutely wonderful. Okay, Kaushik, tell me about the downloads. How many downloads you've had? And also tell me, is it available on both, Android phones and iPhones? Tell me about that.
So we are close to about 750K downloads right now, about 7.5 lakhs. We started with only Android because that was the market for Bharat. Uh, but Mr. Tim Cook has done something extremely courageous. He's brought distribution of iPhones down to tier 2, tier 3 towns. He's brought in exchange schemes and he's brought in financing schemes. So the market share of Apple has gone up from, I guess, 3% to some 12% and is growing faster than Android. So we had no choice but to go into Apple as well. So yes, today we are both in the Apple Store and the Google Store. Uh, Obviously, 80% of our downloads come from the Android store still. About 15-20% comes from the Apple store. But I mean, we are seeing a lot of Apple downloads from tier 2, tier 3 cities as well, which is good news for Mr. Tim Cook.
So when we started the podcast, you were mentioning about that you've been a brand strategist. Okay, in all your life, you've been working with different kind of brands. Now tell me, how do you, how have you revamped this particular section of the society through a different kind of branding through Flutter?
So you see, this strata of society is changing very fast. Okay, I mean, people don't realize it. Geo has come into India. I mean, Geo is now all over India, and there is a huge amount of internet data, cheap internet data available in remotest corners of the country. Okay, right. I mean, India is the biggest video consumption market in the world, and online video consumption market in the world. It's, I think, three times the size of China. Okay, right. And that is because of cheap internet data. Okay, right. Second is smartphone prices have tumbled, and you can today get a smartphone at 5,000 rupees, 6,000 rupees, and that too on a EMI scheme. Okay, right. So because of these two, the digital connectedness in the tier 2, tier 3, and hinterlands of India have gone up substantially. Okay, right. And because of that, what has happened is the content consumption, which is there, let's say for a boy or a girl in Pedder Road, is there for a boy or a girl in Jhansi as well. Okay, right. So the aspirations have become very homogeneous. Right. What we are trying to do through Flutter is simply to empower them to give vent to this aspiration in their own mother tongue, in the language that they're comfortable in. Okay, right. In an environment which they're comfortable in a pocket-friendly manner in which they're comfortable in. That is what we are trying to do. So it's a question of uh, just riding the wave which is sweeping small town India. And everybody says this is India's century. And I believe, yes, it is India's century, but it is India's century for tier 2, tier 3 towns. Those will be the growth engines for India in the next maybe 20, 30 years. So you know that that buzz is happening, that trend is growing, and through Flutter we are simply empowering them to do everything that they want to do in their own mother tongue, in their own in which they're comfortable in. That is the buzzword. Empowerment and the freedom to choose is what drives Flutter.
Okay, let's talk about you, Kaushik, now. Tell me why you felt this could be successful and what is the success mantra? Over to you.
So Rashi, I mean, why I felt this was successful is because of data, of course. So you see, look at the internet penetration, and you look at the video consumption, and you look at the smartphone penetration. You look at why Apple is getting into tier two, tier three towns. Also, if you look at Google searches, for instance, okay, right, 82% of Google searches in our country happen in the vernacular language. Okay, right? So, so there is clear data which shows that people are more comfortable in their own mother tongue than in English. Okay, right, correct. And also, one you must realize that India is a colonial country. Okay, right, ex-colonial country. We've been ruled by the British for 200 years. So, knowing English and not knowing English is not only a language barrier; it is also a social divide. Okay, right. So, you're almost like a second-class citizen if you can't speak English. Okay, right. So through Flutter, we are trying to break both the language barrier and the social barrier. Right? Right. So when you look at, let's say, when you look at other vernacular businesses which are doing very well, and you look at the data surrounding the vernacular market, then you know it's going to work. The challenge is how to make it work. And for us, the North Star matrix is very simple. How many love stories are beginning on Flutter? That's the North Star matrix. Because if more love stories begin on Flutter, the more there will be word of mouth, more acceptance, more revenue, everything. The North Star matrix is how many love stories are beginning on Flutter. And that is something we track on a daily basis.
I never imagined that so much of knowledge could go behind having a dating app, honestly. And this is absolutely wonderful, it's interesting. Okay, tell us about your achievements, Kaushik. You've had a very big span of career, and this is something you indulged into by choice. So let me know and tell our listeners about your achievements all these years. Over to you.
So I've worked in the corporate world. I mean, I've worked in uh, pretty good companies. I started my career with Titan, uh, worked in Duncan Steel, moved to Bombay Dyeing, then Durgappa Group. Then my last corporate assignment with Idea Cellular, and then my last corporate assignment was with the media giant Anandabazar Patrika Group in Calcutta, where I was vice president of and the SBU head for their Bengali print business, their radio business, and I set up their digital news business from scratch. So, so various achievements have turned around various brands, launched new businesses, grew businesses. The biggest achievement and the biggest learning that I've had in the corporate world is more about people. Okay, right. Is more about your team. Okay, right. Is so the I believe that the human potential is infinite. Okay, right. And the leader's job of any leader is to unleash that potential. Okay, right. So you have to empower your team. You have to engage your team. You have to motivate your team. And if you can do all these three, then magic can happen. And I've seen that in my corporate life several times over. Okay, right. So I guess, yeah, in terms of growing profitability, growing revenues, all that has happened with me. But my biggest learning and what I bring into Flutter is how to unleash the potential of the human being who's working with you. Okay. How do you make him feel engaged, feel empowered? So in Flutter, we have two very clear philosophies. One is a bias for action. Right. We are a startup, so there are three things which are very important in a startup: agility, resilience, and adaptability. Okay, right. So we have a bias for action. We keep doing things. and the team is encouraged to do things, take risks, do things. Okay, right, and we do not have any fear of failure. So no team member is pulled up because he's failed in certain things. The only thing he's asked is, what have you learned from this mistake? So when you create that kind of an environment within a team, then what happens is that the whole team becomes energized, and, and the whole team starts delivering results which is far beyond what they expected to do. So I guess that's my biggest learning from the corporate world, which I bring into Flutter.
Okay, Kaushik, tell us what are the future plans for Flutter?
So Rashi, going forward, we are looking at Flutter. I mean, an online dating app is only a foothold in the romance ecosystem. Okay, right? So what we want to create is an online, offline, and metaverse version of Flutter to tap into the entire romance ecosystem for the underserved youth of the country. So, so it could, today it's only online dating. It could be gifting tomorrow. It could be singles meetup day after. It could be virtual dating. It could be AR, VR technology. So create a complete romance ecosystem, which not only is an online meeting and chatting app, but that's only the beginning of the journey. The whole journey will encompass creating a complete romance ecosystem uh, for the entire underserved youth of Bharat, and maybe tomorrow the world, okay, which is non-English countries. Okay, so that's where the vision is.
Definitely, love doesn't move with English and Hindi, and that is what he's trying to say. This is absolutely wonderful. Finding love in the digital age, where pixels turn into passions and messages become memories, with lots and lots of love. Download the app. The application link is available in the video on the post. Get in touch with them. Download the app and get your love life started. कौशिक आपका बहुत बहुत थैंक्स है क्या बाय
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having